I do solemnly, sincerely and truly declare and affirm that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Let us have your full name, please.
Elizabeth Reason.
Known as Liz?
Known as Liz.
Liz. Turn, if you would, across the hearing room rather than looking at me. Thank you for that, but there's no need for it. Is it Miss or Mrs.?
Ms.
Ms. All right, I will try to remember that. It's Ms. Reason. You've made a statement to the inquiry dated the 10th of January 2019. We'll put it up on our screens. You have it in your tab 1. I also know you have your own file.
Yeah.
It's GNP 001004. And you were asked, in effect, to consider two matters which are linked. First of all, the safeguarding policy which the Green Party has, and I think first adopted in 2016. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
And an affair in relation to the Challenor family, Aimee and David, and really how the safeguarding policy failed to work in relation to them. So I'm going to ask you about those two interlinked matters. First of all, Ms. Reason, tell us about yourself and where you sit, as it were, within the Green Party.
Yeah. Okay, so I was elected as chair of the Green Party executive in August 2018. So I've been enrolled for about 6 months.
And how long have you been a member of the Green Party?
Since 2013.
And what does that role involve?
Well, it means that the chair has responsibility for overseeing the operational aspects of the organisation, the party, as opposed to the Green Party Regional Council, which looks after its well-being.
Yes.
And political strategy.
And so can you speak to the safeguarding policy and the matters which I've already indicated I wish to ask you about?
Yes.
And presumably you have some personal knowledge of it, given the fact that you were in the hot seat at the relevant period.
I was not in the hot seat when the first safeguarding policy was produced in 2016. Yeah. But I have been responsible for overseeing the development of the revised policy.
Yeah, thank you. You were certainly in your position when the Challenor affair blew up, presumably.
I'm not sure that I was. Oh, it was August.
August last year.
August last year. I was just coming into post, so there was the former chair was still in post when the story broke.
Who was the former chair?
Emma Carter.
Now, let's please have a look at the policy document, and you produce it in your statement, beginning on the second page. Is that correct?
Yes, I think so.
It was formally produced by another member of the Green Party, I think Matt Brown.
Yes, who's the governance officer.
He's the governance officer, but this is the document, and therefore it's the second page. It's just been copied and pasted, as it were, into your statement by the look of it.
Yeah.
I don't want to run through every aspect of it. In fact, it's not the second page. It's...
Well, I can see it.
I'm looking at the wrong thing. It's a completely different document. It's GNP 001005. The second page of your statement is where you ask certain questions about it. But it's behind divider 4 in the bundle, and it was attached to Matt Brown's statement, not yours.
Okay. Yeah, he offered the existing policy before it was updated.
And so what we're looking at here, and this comes with the statement of Matt Brown in October 2018. So do we take it that this is the policy as it was in 2016 or the policy as it is today?
The policy as it was in 2016.
So before, I imagine further revisions have been applied to it.
Yes, although it was, I think, in July 2018 that we had already decided that it would be appropriate to update it.
Yeah. And that was before the...
Before the Aimee Challenor,
Challenor.
David Challenor story broke.
All right, we'll come back to that. But I don't want to read through every word of it because we have it and it's adduced as evidence for the purposes of the inquiry. But tell us, please, what its purpose is. What does the policy aim to protect? And you can look, please, at the policy itself,
Yeah.
if that helps you in giving us a sketch of what it does.
Yeah. So it's designed to protect children, young people and adults at risk who attend Green Party meetings and events, and to provide members, volunteers and staff with the overarching principles that guide our approach to safeguarding.
Yeah. And it applies to children and young people who, for the purposes of the policy, is anyone under 18.
Correct.
And you define at the top of the next page, I say you, the policy does,
Yeah.
At the top of the next page, page 3 of GNP 001005, safeguarding is a broadly preventative and precautionary organisational approach to planning and procedures required to protect children, young people and adults at risk from any actual or potential harm resulting from their contact with any part of the organisation. Safeguarding involves recognising signs of physical or emotional abuse and acting on that recognition appropriately.
Yeah.
And then in the last third of the page you set out safeguarding principles. The membership of the Green Party individually and corporately recognise that the welfare of children, young people and adults at risk is paramount. All people, regardless of age, disability, gender, racial heritage, religious belief, sexual orientation or identity, or any other undue social separation, have a right to equal protection from all forms of harm or abuse. Some people are additionally vulnerable because of the impact of previous experiences, their level of dependency, communication needs or other issues. Our underlying safeguarding principle is that all children, young people and adults at risk will be protected at all times from behaviour and attitudes they find uncomfortable and upsetting. To achieve this aim, the GPEW, and that's the Green Party
of England and Wales,
will ensure that the needs of the children, young people and adults at risk are central to the planning of all activity in which they're involved. Open communication with members of all ages and effective planning will support safeguarding of vulnerable people at risk. And then top of the next page, all have the right to speak out about behaviour and attitudes they find uncomfortable, that they know to whom they should speak and be confident their concerns will be listened to. Any physical contact should be instigated by the vulnerable person, should be appropriate and relevant to their needs or ensure their safety. And any members organising an activity must ensure they understand their responsibilities in the safeguarding of vulnerable people, especially those not accompanied by a parent, guardian or carer. And these are set out in the procedure for delivering the safeguarding policy. And skating over whose responsibility it is, although in general terms all staff, Green Party staff, volunteers and members working at national, regional and local party level are included. But procedures for delivering the safeguarding policy are to be found, are they not, on the 5th page?
Yep.
Under the heading Procedures for Delivering the Green Party Safeguarding Policy. And focusing on what is said right at the bottom, if at any point you suspect that abuse is or may be happening, it's critical that you act. There are 2 things you should do. 1, act to stop the abuse and reassure those affected. 2, act to report the abuse. And then you have over the page a diagram, a flow diagram about what to do. And then headings, stopping it and reassuring, Second, reporting the abuse on page 6, is that right?
Yes.
On the next page, page 7, the question is raised, do you need a disclosure and barring service check when working with vulnerable people? And then if we turn to page 9 of the document, there is a form for reporting abuse.
Yes.
Now, do you happen to know, this was adopted in 2016, was this the first time the Green Party had any policy of this nature?
I believe it was, though I can check with the office as to whether we had anything before that.
Who drafted it?
It was drafted by one of the coordinators, so the executive is made up of coordinators, that's the terminology that we use, and it was drafted by one of the, I think she was the Young Green coordinator.
With or without the help of advice from any other sources?
I'm sure that there was advice, but I would have to go back and check with whom she had taken advice.
It was just an idle question from me, whether she was sufficiently skilled to draft a policy without any outside advice, such as legal or from any other partner agencies, or whether it's likely she had some assistance with it.
I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to answer that question directly now.
Now, can we go to the Challenor incident, please? First of all, tell us who Aimee Challenor is, or was, insofar as the Green Party is concerned.
Yes, Aimee joined the party in December 2014, and she was appointed spokesperson for the LGBTIQA group, and she is a trans woman.
Yeah.
She subsequently was elected onto the executive.
And her father, David, what about him?
She gifted him membership a year later.
When you say gifted him, what does that mean?
Well, you can do that. You can buy membership on behalf of somebody else, and I believe her relationship with her father had not been a happy one, and this was one of the ways of conciliating between them. And
so if she became a member, joined the party in December 2014, a year later, 2015, possibly 2016?
2015, December
2015.
2015.
And we'll come to the roles that they both had. I've worked out a chronology of events from the material. Can we see if I take you through the chronology without expecting you to remember it? And some of it is culled from your own statement, but also a report to which will come, the Verita report, and other sources. And let me see if I've got this correct. David Challenor was charged in November 2016, so a year after, a good year after, presumably, he became a member of the party, with a series of serious sexual offences. Is that correct, as regards a 10-year-old girl?
Correct.
And perhaps we can put up, we'll come back to it, the Verita report, GNP 001003, page 7. And the Verita report is the party instructed Verita to look at all the processes and what happened and to make recommendations.
Yes, correct.
And so this is part of the executive summary, but just looking at the chronology at the foot of the page, David Challenor charged with 22 serious criminal offences, including taking indecent photographs, false imprisonment, rape and sexual assault of a child, assault by penetration, and assault causing actual bodily harm. And the date of charge, I think, is what that sentence means, on the 5th of November 2016.
Yes.
All right, well, we can keep that report up because we'll come back to it. Aimee, David Challenor's daughter, she was selected in April 2017 to be the Green Party general election candidate for Coventry South.
She was.
So that's the year after her father is charged with those offences. And when the father was charged, she informed two people who worked for the Green Party, and presumably members of the party, Matt Hawkins and Claire Phipps, of the fact that her father had been charged.
I'd just correct you there. They were not employees of the party.
Right.
They were coordinators. I just want to explain that the party had been going through a transition. So when it had few members 5 years ago, and before that, the party was effectively run by its executive committee, who were given different roles to help run the party. And that's where the terminology coordinator comes from. So Claire Phipps and Matt Hawkins were external communications coordinators. But of course, by this time, because we're a much bigger party, we're better funded, so we have professional staff who can undertake those roles. But we're still, you know, and particularly a bit back then, in a hybrid situation where you ended up with volunteers overseeing sort of the work of professional staff, and it's something that we're correcting. We are changing our governance arrangements.
But she, Aimee, informed Matt Hawkins and Claire Phipps, external communications coordinators, of her father being charged on the 5th of November 2016 in general terms.
Yeah.
And she did this through a private Facebook message.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's correct.
On the same date, she informed Coventry Pride. And tell us a little about Coventry Pride. Who are they?
That's a local group that obviously is set up to support and promote the needs of LGBT individuals, and she was a trustee.
And that's the reason why she told them, because of her links with Coventry Pride.
We're assuming that to be the case.
Yeah. Did you understand that she was saying at that time that she didn't know what the actual allegations were, but that her father had been charged with 22 offences?
Some of them sexual, I think she said.
I'm just going to add the majority sexual.
The majority sexual. Yes, that is what she said.
But the message, the Facebook message to Matt Hawkins and Claire Phipps, said nothing about them being in relation to a child.
No.
I think you just said no.
I said no, more loudly.
Thank you. On the same day, the 5th of November 2016, Mr. Hawkins informed 3 Green Party staff members in the press team by email
Yes.
that a close relative of a Green Party spokesperson had been arrested and had asked the staff members to contact him if anyone got in touch with them concerning the matter.
That's what he told them, yes.
What was Aimee also a spokesperson by this time for the party?
I believe she was, yes.
And what is a spokesperson for the Green Party? Is there more than one? Was she the only one, or what?
No, there are several spokespeople, and it just depends on the topic. It's the equivalent of being, you know, your front bench, shadow equivalent.
Am I right in saying that both Aimee and her father, David, were not named in the communication?
Correct.
And that this was the only communication passed to any Green Party staff?
Yes.
Now, as you said, in April 2017, Aimee was selected to be the Green Party general election candidate for Coventry South.
Yeah.
In the following month, May 2017, was David Challenor, her father, her election agent for the election?
She appointed him as her agent.
Yeah. And in the following year, May 2018, was David Challenor appointed to, and did he act as, election agent for Aimee and for Tina Challenor, his wife, in the May 28 local elections?
Yes, that's correct.
In June or July 2018, was Aimee selected as a candidate for deputy leader of the Green Party?
She wasn't selected. She put herself forward as a candidate.
And then the very next month, August 2018, David Challenor was convicted of the offences,
Yes.
which I have listed in general terms, and he was sentenced to 22 years imprisonment.
He was.
And if we look at your witness statement, Ms. Reason, you set out certain questions you were asked and you give answers to it. But if we look at the witness statement, GMP 001004 at page 2, under the first paragraph, you say no members of Green Party staff were aware of the investigation into David Challenor.
Yeah.
They were only informed after David Challenor's conviction in August 2018. Do you remember how the information came to their knowledge? Was it because of publicity or for any other reason?
This was the private Facebook message that Aimee gave them.
Well, the private Facebook message was in November 2016.
Oh, sorry. So
He's
yeah.
been convicted in August 2018, almost, but not quite.
Oh,
2
sorry.
years
How
later.
did it happen in
Yeah.
August 2018?
Yeah. How did it come
sorry.
to your attention?
Oh, I believe that Aimee then contacted us and told probably the head of communications, the professional staff.
If you go, please, to, in your bundle, you may have this elsewhere, but let's just look at some of the publicity that arose as a result of the convictions. I think it's right to say there was no publicity beforehand.
There was none, as far as I'm aware, no.
But if we look, and we can put up on screen tab 5, to begin with, INQ 004081.
Yeah,
There's a picture of David Challenor
yeah.
with the byline, man held 10-year-old girl captive in torture den attic as he played out sadomasochistic fantasies. And it reads, a man who held a 10-year-old girl captive in his torture den attic where he electrocuted her while playing out his sadomasochistic fantasies has been jailed for 22 years. I'm not going to read any more because it's pretty dreadful stuff. And then over the page, or over the tab, I should say, tab 6, we have a Guardian article. That one I've just read was in the Independent. This is the Guardian of the 27th of August. The last one was the 22nd of August. INQ 004080. And that's Aimee.
Yes.
With the heading or the headline, Greens rising star quits deputy leader race after father jailed for rape. And just reading perhaps the first paragraph or so, a rising young member of the Greens has pulled out of the race to become the party's deputy leader after her father, who was previously her election agent, was jailed for abusing and raping a child. Aimee Challenor, the Greens equality spokeswoman, who was among the front runners in the leadership contest, said she'd had no idea about the crimes but was withdrawing to prevent the election process becoming dominated by what my father has done. And then it adds, Challenor, 50, was jailed for 22 years last week after being convicted of torturing and raping a 10-year-old girl in the attic of the family home in Coventry. He'd served as Aimee Challenor's election agent when she stood in the 2017 general election and in the local elections in May this year after his arrest. Now, if we go back to your witness statement, please, GNP 001004, page 3, under your paragraph 3. So it's the second page of your witness statement in relation to what actions were taken. Well, can you tell us what actions were taken once you understood the enormity of what had happened?
Yes, David Challenor was immediately expelled from the party, and Aimee and Tina, her mother, were both suspended pending an inquiry, which is the normal disciplinary practice.
I didn't ask you this, and it wasn't in the chronology, because I don't think I found information about it, but when did she become a member of the party?
I'm afraid I haven't got that information in front of me either. I can find it out.
All right. Not terribly important. Do you have any idea, in general terms, if it was around the same time as
It would have been around the same time as David, I'm guessing.
David was gifted the membership. So David Challenor was expelled from the party with immediate effect. And tell us, I'm afraid if I missed it, what became of Aimee at that point?
Aimee and Tina were both given what we call a no-fault suspension, and GPRC, the Green Party Regional Council, immediately instigates a disciplinary process to establish the facts.
And what happened in that disciplinary process?
Aimee resigned before the disciplinary process got underway.
And resigned when, do you remember? I don't want an exact date, but how long after the disciplinary process?
Very soon after.
And the mother, what about her?
I'm afraid I don't know when the mother, what happened to Tina. I'll establish it and let you know.
That's very kind of you. Paragraph 5, there's another twist, because was it discovered that Tina Challenor, who was standing in the local elections in May 2018 as a councillor in the Binley and Willenhall ward in Coventry, had been a witness for the husband during the course of his trial? Now, of course, she stood for the elections in the May. The trial was clearly in the August, so that post-dated her standing in the local council elections. But would that have been something that had troubled the party and the executive in particular if it had been known about?
Had it been known about, absolutely. We have dealt with a number of cases over the years where you can see that we immediately take prompt action when something is brought to our attention. But we really had no idea what was going on here, and neither apparently did the Coventry party.
Paragraph 6, you were asked to explain why David Challenor was able to be registered as the election agent for his daughter in the May 2017 and May 2018 elections when there were outstanding criminal charges against him, in particular relating to child sexual abuse.
The decision to appoint David as her agent was Aimee's, and Aimee's alone.
And so if she hadn't disclosed the full detail to the party, and what she did disclose, if that had been perhaps notified in a different way to others, rather than just the press office, then are you saying events may have taken a different turn?
Yes. When you sign up as a candidate, you are required, or you sign something which says that you are revealing anything that may cause the party difficulty, but she signed without revealing these issues.
And would that have been the position in the May general election of 2017 and the May 28 local elections?
Yes.
So she would have been expected to sign a full and complete disclosure form indicating any areas which the party ought to know about may presumably cause political embarrassment or other difficulty.
That's right.
And she was silent on both occasions.
We ask people, if need be, to ask us if there is something in their background or life that may cause problems, but she didn't choose to do that either.
No. Which rather suggests that her ambition got in the way of doing the right thing.
It does suggest that.
In relation to the Challenor affair, has the party received internal or external complaints about that matter from party members or others?
I don't know how many people were approached the party to ask what was going on, or to say that it had upset them. And to be honest, I think that us commissioning the Verita report made people feel comfortable that we were dealing with it in an appropriate way.
But up to that point, were there complaints either internally or externally about what had happened? And perhaps...
Not that I'm aware of.
You're not aware, so you're not even aware if people may still be complaining about it?
I don't think they are, but I'm quite happy to go back and find out.
No, I'm simply asking.
Yeah.
If it's necessary, we'll ask you to do so. But I
Yeah.
simply wanted to know, in general terms, whether you were aware of any such complaints. I'm not
No.
suggesting there are. I just want
No.
to ask you if there are, to your knowledge.
No.
All right. Well, you commissioned the Verita report.
Yes.
Do you know offhand, the report itself is dated January this year.
Yes.
The events we're talking about, certainly the convictions arose in August 2018.
Yes.
So it's been a relatively short period of time
Yes.
for the report to be commissioned and to have been finalised with its recommendations and conclusions. How quickly was the Verita report commissioned after these events?
Within a week. It might have been a fortnight, but I mean very quickly. As the story blew up, we realised we had to do something.
Yeah. And if we can put it back up on screen, please. GNP 001003. I wonder if we can go to the very first page, if we have it. The front page. Because there we can see its title, Verita Improvement Through Investigation, Independent Investigation into the Green Party's Actions following the allegations and charges brought against David Challenor, a report for the Green Party of England and Wales, January 2019. Who are Verita as an organisation? I mean, maybe the clue's in the name, but who are they?
Yeah, they're a very reputable organisation that undertake inquiries of this sort and have legal counsel that assist.
Obviously, I'm not going to go through all of it. It's now adduced into evidence, all of it, but you'll confirm, Ms. Reason, that it runs, including appendices, to 80 pages,
Yes.
80 pages. If we look on page 2, they tell us a little about themselves, who the authors are: Kieran Seal, David Scott and Lucy Scott Moncrief, if my memory serves me. A solicitor?
I wouldn't like to say. Sorry, I don't know.
Verita is an independent consultancy that specialises in conducting and managing investigations, reviews and inquiries for regulated organisations, and it gives the limitations on the further use of the report with details about the organisation. And then on page 3, forgive me, we see its content, introduction, terms of reference, the executive summary, and then the other chapters, chapter 9 in particular, conclusions and policy and procedural issues arising, and then the appendices of which I've made mention. Page 4, paragraph 1.2. Nick Martin, the chief executive of the party, asked Verita to conduct an independent investigation in September 2018. So that links in with what you told us about the speed with which the matter was dealt with. And then if we look, please, on page 5, there we see the terms of reference. And the following paragraph 2.1 are the main elements of the terms of reference for the investigation. The full terms are to be found in Appendix B. Purpose of the investigation sets out the short background. the purpose of the investigation is to examine the party's response to the allegation and charges brought against David Challenor. The investigation will be completed in 2 stages, and then those stages are set out. They include establishing the chronology, actions taken by members of the party, who was made aware of the allegations and or the charges, and so on and so forth. And then over the page, please, to stage 2, to consider whether any form of disciplinary action should be considered, whether any changes should be made to party policies and procedures, to consider whether any new policies or procedures needed to be developed, and a summary report. Page 8 sets out really the chronology of matters in relation to David Challenor once he was released on bail in paragraph 3.9 under the heading The Charges. Paragraph 3.10 the nature of the charges against David Challenor raises the issue of whether other children or vulnerable adults were at risk from the time of the charges through to his conviction and imprisonment. This type of concern is generally referred to as safeguarding. Although legislation and policies relating to safeguarding can be complex, in this context it amounts to a simple question: is any vulnerable person at risk? In this report we use the term safeguarding to mean the general responsibility of every citizen to protect vulnerable people. As I say, I'm not going to go through it all, but I'm just going to select a couple of pages. Page 12, please. If we look at paragraph 3.27, reasons for informing the party, many of the people we spoke to during the investigation raised the fear of adverse publicity as a major concern. Was that of concern to you when you read the report, that in effect people were more worried about the risk of adverse publicity than they were to the vulnerabilities of children who, as earlier pointed out in the report, might still be subject to abuse by David Challenor, presumably while he was on bail awaiting trial?
I think it's fair to say that the party was concerned about reputational risk. We do take safeguarding seriously, and I don't think that we made a connection between David Challenor and young members or those who are vulnerable in the party itself.
Yeah. So what I think you're saying is that because, albeit he was an election agent and a member of the party, if anybody had applied their mind to the possibility of whether he was continuing to abuse a child or children whilst he was on bail, that had no reference to the party, and if it was occurring outside. Do you think
that is what I think we assumed, yes.
Do you think that was, looking back, a legitimate approach?
We had no evidence that his behaviour was impacting on the party at the time.
Yeah.
Perhaps with our new safeguarding procedure, if anyone in the local party had any concerns, they would raise them up to the National Party, which in the previous safeguarding policy was not a requirement, I think.
So the thought processes were geared towards what's going on within our organisation, albeit David Challenor had been a member of your organisation.
Yes, I think the response was at the national level rather than thinking down at the local party level.
At 3.28, we reviewed the party's safeguarding policy and procedures. we found that the party members we interviewed had a low level of awareness of safeguarding issues and risk. Did that tend to suggest a low level of awareness means that some probably didn't even know that there was a safeguarding policy?
The safeguarding policy that we had approved in 2016 was put on the members' website, but we did not have a system of ensuring that that filtered down to the local party. And so I think you're right, it's possible that people didn't know there was a policy, and that's what we're changing with the new policy.
Then 3.29, prioritising the safety of children and vulnerable people is an individual responsibility of every member of society. There could hardly be a bigger red flag in this respect than someone being charged with 22 sexual offences. Irrespective of where the responsibility lies, one of the effects of the way this case was handled was that someone who had committed serious sexual offences was given roles of responsibility within the Green Party during a period of almost 2 years, after a major safeguarding risk should have been apparent. David Challenor bears some responsibility for this, but Aimee Challenor, as an officer of the party both nationally and locally, should have considered safeguarding issues. If anyone should have known, she should.
Yes, exactly, and it was kept within the family.
Yeah. And then the report deals with the reasons for not disclosing the charges more widely within the party. As I say, I'm not going to go through it because otherwise we shall be here a very long time. But can we go please to page 19 to look at how Coventry Pride, by way of contradistinction, dealt with the matter, because as you confirmed, because she was a trustee of the organisation, Aimee told them or gave them similar information. Paragraph 360 on page 12, page 19. Aimee Challenor was a trustee of Coventry Pride. She told us that she informed them on the same day or the following day that she had messaged Matt Hawkins. In response to being told about the charges, Coventry Pride took immediate safeguarding actions, such as preventing David Challenor from volunteering for the charity. The contrast, paragraph 3.61, the contrast between the actions Coventry Pride took and the Green Party took is stark. Coventry Pride knew of David Challenor's involvement as a volunteer in their work and acted. Can you explain the difference in approach?
What we haven't been told is how much Aimee told Coventry Pride.
Yeah.
Perhaps if she told them as little as our coordinators were told, they might not have reacted. Equally, this was a local organisation, a local party, and it could be that the reaction, therefore, was more robust.
Yeah, I think paragraph 3.62 may assist. In this regard, members of the Coventry Green Party knew locally of his membership and his involvement in party activities, while people in the National Party knew about his arrest and charges. However, party members in Coventry were not informed of the charges against David Challenor and were unable to take action. It's a case of not joining the dots, yes, by the look of it. If we move on, please, to page 20, paragraph 3.65. And this is, if we go back, please, I'm sorry, if we just go back to page 19, we see that's where the conclusions begin. Within, I think, the executive summary, roles and responsibilities within the Green Party, and then there's a reference to the Code of Conduct on page 20. What is the Code of Conduct? What does it relate to?
It sets out the behaviours that are expected of all members of the party and to which they will be held if there are issues. Until now, the Code of Conduct has been something people are expected to abide by, but we've actually changed that rule now so that when people become members of the party, they actually have to indicate that they have read it and accept it. So we've strengthened the way in which it is used.
And the report here at 3.65 says we've identified several areas where the Code of Conduct for party members should be tightened. The Code of Conduct needs to make clear what should be reported and how it should be reported. And then there are several other paragraphs in that vein. Page 21, the report highlights the importance of safeguarding. Paragraph 3.72, it's disappointing that many people we spoke to in the party fail to see the safeguarding issues that arise here, which is a bit alarming.
Well, it is, but as I say, I've actually got a record of other cases that were brought to the party's attention well before this happened, and we took immediate action in all of those instances. It's the failure to know what was happening that resulted in our failure. So I think the party has taken safeguarding seriously, but will do yet more on training at local party level.
But that's really what 3.72 is aimed at. It looks as if even now people fail to see how safeguarding issues arise on these facts as known, and that's a problem. Those in the party who were told about David Challenor's activities saw the issue as primarily a communications one about protecting the reputation of the party. Awareness of safeguarding issues in the party in general appears to be low. So that's the problem that we highlighted a little earlier. Far too narrow a focus on the party and not a wide enough focus on the vulnerable, the children, the abused, and what's going on outside the impact on the party itself. Do you agree?
I suppose you could say that.
That's what I do. 3.73, the party therefore needs to raise awareness of the importance of safeguarding issues, including when and how they should be raised. 3.74, the chief executive of the party, is that you in this report?
No, I'm the chair.
You're the chair. Who was the chief executive?
The chief executive, Nick Martin.
Nick Martin, who commissioned the report.
Who commissioned the report, yes.
Acknowledged weaknesses in the party's safeguarding record in the past. However, he told us that these predated the party's growth as an organisation, employing significant numbers of professional staff. He told us that the party has made significant improvements to safeguarding procedures and practice in recent years and is fully committed to continuing to improvement. Them is how it reads in the future. It should be to improving them in the future. And then recommendations on page 22 within the executive summary. 1, the Green Party should discuss with West Midlands Police as soon as possible whether it's their policy to draw to the party's attention charges against a party member that could give rise to safeguarding concerns. Now, pausing there, one of the problems was West Midlands Police probably knew all about David Challenor, but they never passed it on to the party.
No.
And so there was a problem at putting it at its lowest of communication.
We have asked the West Midlands Police to let us know what their responsibilities are in these circumstances and how this might have been handled differently, but they've not been able to provide us with an answer.
Did they provide any answer at all as to why it was they never communicated in the first place?
No, we haven't had an answer other than a holding answer.
And how long has that answer been?
Around
waiting?
3 months, 2 months at least.
And the second recommendation is the Green Party's Code of Conduct should, as a matter of urgency, be made clearer about what members should report. In particular, it should emphasise the importance of raising issues that give rise to safeguarding concerns. And third, the Green Party should urgently review its safeguarding policy and procedures to strengthen its approach to raising awareness and improving processes for reporting safeguarding concerns and risks to people outside the party. And then finally, please, as I say, I'm not going to go through all of the findings in between the executive summary and the conclusions to which I turn on page 71. And in effect, over these 3 or 4 pages, the report expands the conclusions within the executive summary and sets out similar recommendations for Have you got it, Ms. Reason?
Yes, I'm looking for something in response to the confusion of roles between volunteers and professional staff.
By all means, well, take your time, and I'll wait for you to see if you want to find that document, and then tell us what you want to say about it.
Yeah, the main point that I'd like to say is that we have undertaken over the course of the last 12 months something we call the holistic review, which has proposed significant changes to the governance arrangements. A key change is that the executive, which I say is made up of a lot of volunteers, will become an appointed body rather than an elected body.
Yeah.
So the board will be a more professional organisation that is selected on the basis of their knowledge and experience rather than because they have been elected by the membership, which is how they get there at the moment.
I see. And does that mean that the ambition is to appoint people with real skill and talent that they can bring to all of the issues that a party like yours has to confront on, I suspect, a daily basis?
That's right, and it's the key day-to-day organisational management that is key here. And then there will be a Green Party Council of many elected members to whom the board will be answerable.
Thank you. Well, as I say, in the conclusions, policy, procedural issues arising, build on the executive summary and the recommendations. We don't need to go through that, but they are there for all to read. Now, has that review begun? I know it's early days. This report is only a couple of months old now, but has a review of the safeguarding policy begun?
It has been undertaken. A new policy was approved on Saturday at our executive meeting, and we are now starting to develop a training programme. The idea is that we will have trained 3 or 4 members of the party, people in field officer roles, those who work at local level, who will then be able to pass that training on all over the country at local level and bring it to the attention of many more members.
Yeah, and what about the issue you mentioned earlier, the failure by Aimee to make appropriate declarations? Has that been beefed up a little?
Yes, we've strengthened the candidate statement, what people are expected to tell us of any issue that may arise which would cause a problem for them or for the party.
Yeah. And is there a strengthening of disciplinary procedures? Will that follow as a result of the revision of these policies?
The disciplinary procedures were introduced in 2016, and we have a disciplinary committee, a disputes resolution committee, and a referral group that decides actually which direction complaints should go in. So that has now been operating for over 2 years and is probably going to undertake a review of its effectiveness. But it seems to operate well at the moment.
Let's just look, please, to see what you had to say in paragraph 9 of your, forgive me, witness statement, GNP 001004 at page 4. You say, as soon as Green Party staff and current members on governance bodies were made aware of the conviction of David Challenor in August 2018, a number of actions were instigated in response. Disciplinary. Challenor was expelled from the Green Party. Aimee and Tina were both suspended from the party pending internal investigation. Aimee Challenor has now resigned from the Green Party, which you told us before. The party commissioned the investigations consultancy Verita to consider the matter in full and to provide a report to the party. We've seen that now. Safeguarding. The Green Party's safeguarding policy adopted in 2016 and previously sent to the inquiry is being reviewed. This review will take recommendations from the Verita inquiry into account, along with recommendations commissioned from an external safeguarding consultancy. You've actually taken somebody from outside to help you with the safeguarding policy as well. Spokespeople. The Green Party has started a review of its system for appointing and managing spokespeople. Again, I think you've told us that. And then guidance to candidates. The Green Party has prepared new guidance for all Green Party candidates in local and national elections, stressing that all potential criminal matters involving themselves or family members should be reported in full to the party at once. This guidance provides examples of matters that should be declared. Have things moved on from even this since you've written the statement?
Yes, I can say, first of all, on the spokespeople inquiry, that is nearing its end, and we've come up with a lot of recommendations. But already, at the end of 2017, we had developed a code of conduct for spokespeople, which they are all required to sign, and all our spokespeople have now signed that. And should anything occur that causes the party concern, they can be summarily dismissed from their role. But that's actually been going on for quite a while.
And I think you said only as recently as last weekend you signed off the new draft policy.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Finally, this, please, Ms. Reason. You've been asked to consider an email, and I'm going to invite you to look at either, if you've got it in your file, it's behind aisle tab 3, GNP 000016. And we'll see at the foot of this email chain the sender has been anonymised and ciphered as WMA30, as has the recipient. Have you got it?
Yes, I've got it. Yes.
But the date it was sent is the 17th of December 2014 at 1:15 in the morning. And it reads this way, the subject line has been redacted. I tell you now, you put, and the name has been redacted, forward as the MP candidate for, and the location has been redacted, or any other position of power representing the Green Party, I will have no hesitation in contacting the Daily Mail to tell them about his history of underage sex with girls he taught. He was sacked as a teacher for inappropriate relations with a student and not meeting the standards required as a teacher. His head teacher, the name is redacted, went as far as adding to his file that it was inappropriate he worked with children again. This man has an arrest record for underage sex with young girls. I've just finished 3 months of rape counselling to get over what he did to me when I was 15. I plan to find the other girls I know of and encourage them to come forward. The person is a serial paedophile. I don't make these allegations out of spite or malice, or even because you might think I'm off my head. I'm a qualified teacher, married mother of 3 children, but it's my part of my job to raise safeguarding concerns and have them listened to. It's downright criminal. He's allowed to visit constituents in their homes where he has access to young girls. He can ban me from posting on his Facebook page all he likes, but I will not be silenced over this. The police might not have been able to have charged him, even though I have his Facebook confession and apology for what he did to me all those years ago, but I will not stay silent over this. He can't stand as an MP. It's morally wrong, and I intend to seek justice in the civil courts for what he did to me. The Green Party are complicit. You already know about the allegations, which is why he was discreetly deselected as deputy leader. You won't respond, but I don't mind. The fact this email leaves a digital footprint will prove you were made aware. If you choose to do nothing, so be it. I'll still oppose his selection. And there appears to be the next day, just halfway up the page, an email which is passed on. So it's forwarded on to somebody called Chris Luffingham. Here's that email. Contacting the Daily Mail is what she said she'd do, and one thing I remembered incorrectly, it says arrest record, not conviction. Do you know anything about this?
This came as a complete surprise to us, I have to say.
Yeah.
I know that Adam Stacey was the membership officer at the time, and that Chris Luffingham was one of 2 executive directors. But this predates our disciplinary system, so I'm afraid we can't tell you what happened to it. but we have taken immediate action, and we've written to the member concerned and told him that we will be asking for his immediate no-fault suspension, which should happen today, while an independent investigation is undertaken of the circumstances described here.
And you say in paragraph 8 of your statement, we don't need to go back to it, you couldn't even find the record of this email on your system?
No, and we do have an enormous number of records on our system.
Yeah. Or of action taken as a result at the time. And you say certainly at the date of the witness statement that you were conducting further inquiries. You've told us what they are. Of course, the date of the email is December 2014.
Yes.
This was first brought to your notice some months ago by the look of it. Do you remember when it was first?
I would have to speak to the office about when it was first brought to our attention, but I thought it came via this inquiry.
Yes,
because you had received it rather than us.
Yeah, no, it did. No, I'm told, in actual fact, and I think the clue is given by the reference at the bottom, GNP, that it was an email received from the Green Party itself. You say in your statement you can't find a record of the email on your systems, but I'm given to understand that it came from the Green Party itself and that the inquiry wrote to the Green Party a couple of months ago about what was happening about it.
I'll have to go back and come back to you with another reply.
Would you do that?
Because I only saw this yesterday for the first time, so I can't quite understand how that could have happened.
Oh, well, that's quite serious then. Would you kindly just go back and make contact with the inquiry, if you would, with an answer to this question in particular, about when you first became aware of it, why you say your records didn't reveal this email when it appears to have come from your records in the first place, as I'm given to understand.
No, I'm afraid I can't tell you that now.
All right, well, thank you very much, Ms. Reason. I'll see if the chair and panel have any questions.
We have no questions. Thank you, Mr. Reason.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much, Ms. Reason. As I say, if you would kindly just try and bottom out for us whether this did come from your records, which appears to be the case for the reasons I give, and the fact that the inquiry wrote to you, I'm told, a couple of months ago about what was being done about it. It's alarming that you've only discovered this yesterday.
Yes, I would be alarmed, but that may be my fault rather than the fault of the party.
Let's find out what the position is. Thank you very much.